Hi, it's Christina with the Sisyphean Journal. I'm here doing another one of my ads that Trump should be doing about abortion because his messaging sucks. This one's called Safe and Legal. And it's best, frankly, I think it's better if you read the script with Donald Trump's voice in your head. But just try to put Donald Trump's voice in your head as I read my script. Comrade Kamala. She talks a lot, but she's not very clear, is she? Not very clear at all. The only thing we can predict that she'll really do is she's going to go with the hardcore Democrats on abortion. The hardcore Democrats, they love abortion. They show how much they love abortion. We just saw that recently, a Democrat outpouring of love for abortion because they love abortion. Outside the Democrat convention, what were Democrats doing? They brought in a bus to do free abortions. Just sign up on the website, get a free abortion. And the other Democrats, they were outside the convention. They were dancing around dressed up like abortion pills. Dancing abortion pills, like abortion is something to be happy about. Happy about abortion. These Democrats, they love abortion, but most Americans, they don't love abortion. They don't love it. Even the ones who think abortion should be legal, they don't love it. And the Democrats, they say they want abortion to be legal so it will be safe for the women. Safe and legal, they say, as if those two words mean the same thing. As if when you legalize abortion, the legalization fairy comes along and sprinkles the magic dust, magic safety dust over that woman, and nothing bad can happen to her. But when you look at their policies, you look at what they do, they don't want to make abortion safe for the woman. This goes back a long time, the Democrats not doing anything to make abortion safe for the woman. In 1989, back in 1989 in Florida, great state Florida, but there were some bad people there, very bad people. The Miami Herald did an investigation. A place called Dadeland Family Planning was doing unsafe abortions, very unsafe abortions. Reusing disposable instruments, supposed to use it only once on one woman, then throw it away, but they didn't. They'd use it again and again on the next woman and the next woman. Doctors were leaving the clinic while the patients were still in recovery, leaving those women with no nurse on staff. And this clinic, it was dirty, very dirty. The stirrups on the procedure tables were covered with blood. The oxygen mask had lipstick on it from previous patients. Very dirty place. But that wasn't the worst. They did an abortion on a woman, a young black woman, a public school administrator, a hard-working woman. They botched that abortion. She came back to the clinic in pain, very sick, very sick. They did a second procedure on her and sent her home injured, very badly injured, with just a bottle of antibiotics. But she had peritonitis, a deadly condition. Should have put her in the hospital. And saved her life, but they didn't. They just gave her a bottle of antibiotics and sent her home, and she died. She died. And the abortion people, they're always telling you they want abortion to be safe for the woman, but they blocked the state. The state tried to go in and clean up these disgusting abortion clinics. But what did the Democrats do? Janice Compton Carr, head of the Florida Abortion Council, she led the fight to stop any state oversight of abortion. She told the Miami Herald, "In my gut, I am completely aghast at what goes on at that place, but I staunchly oppose anything that would correct this situation in law." She opposed fixing the problem, opposed it. And nothing changed since then. Look at the Kermit Gosnell situation in Pennsylvania. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, great people there, but not all of them. There were some bad, very bad people there. Kermit Gosnell, the fake news tried to bury that story. Horrible, horrible man. Kermit Gosnell. In 2010, the story broke. He was selling drugs, massive amounts of drugs from his clinic. And the police raided the clinic for the drug case. The police and the DEA and the FBI. And they found a house of horrors. House of horrors, they called it. The women, they were all doped up, given dangerous drugs by untrained staff. No functioning emergency equipment in the clinic. Nobody who knew CPR there with those women while untrained staff just injected them with dangerous drugs. And the clinic was filthy, just filthy. Cats were roaming around, cats with fleas. Flea-infested cats just roaming around the clinic. And the litter boxes were not cleaned, so the cats were just doing their business all over the floor. Cat business on the floors of a clinic, an abortion clinic. Can you imagine that? Just disgusting. And it was worse. The police, they found out the women had died there, at least 2 women. Shamika Shaw, a young black woman, beautiful young woman, just sent home to die, screaming in pain from a massive infection. Just tragic, just terrible. And another woman, a refugee, Karnamaya Mongar. They overdosed her on those drugs, massive overdose. Nothing done to resuscitate her, just let her die. And you know what else they found out, the investigators? that women were being sent to that place by clinics that were members of the National Abortion Federation, supposedly the best clinics, the safest clinics. The woman would be further along than the doctors at those clinics were willing to do the abortions. They didn't send the woman to a pregnancy center that would help them. They didn't send the women to a clean clinic with trained staff. They just sent those women to Kermit Gosnell. And it's worse. It's even worse. That Kermit Gosnell, terrible man. He worked 1 day a week at a National Abortion Federation clinic. 1 day a week he worked there, starting illegal late abortions that he'd finish in his house of horrors there in Philadelphia. There with the untrained staff and the cats doing their business all over the floors. The Democrats, they try to tell you Gosnell was an outlier. An outlier, they call him. He worked at one of those clinics, one of those National Abortion Federation clinics. He worked there. When somebody works for you, they're not an outlier. They're an employee. An employee, that's what he was, not an outlier. And do you know what else those investigators found? You can read it in the grand jury report. Google it. You need to read it. Kermit Gosnell grand jury report. It's awful, awful stuff. Shocking, very shocking and sickening. Absolutely sickening. The grand jury, they found out that the medical board, the health department, they knew how bad it was there. They knew about the cats. They knew about the untrained staff. They knew about the dead women. Absolutely dangerous, disgusting clinic. They knew how bad it was, the officials. They knew how bad it was, and they didn't shut it down because they love abortion. Love abortion. How much the Democrats love abortion, it's worse than giving away free abortions on a bus outside the Democrat convention. That's sick. That's sick. But knowing about Kermit Gosnell, knowing how bad he was and letting it happen, that's inexcusable. The Democrats, they don't protect women. They protect abortionists, like Kermit Gosnell. They protected him. It took the Philadelphia Police Department, the DEA, and the FBI seeing how bad it was to pressure them into closing that place down. They could have done it 20 years earlier, but they didn't. They love abortion, even abortion done in a filthy place by bad, bad people. They still love it. They love abortions. And bad things keep happening. They keep happening. Kermit Gosnell, that blew up in 2010. The Democrats, they're going to want you to believe that something magical happened in 2010. Disgusting things, unsafe things suddenly stopped happening, they want you to think. But that's not true. Not true. Women keep dying in these abortion clinics. We're supposed to believe that suddenly, after turning a blind eye for decades, all across the country, suddenly the Democrats are going to make abortion clinics clean up their act. In 2020, an Alabama abortion clinic sent a woman home. She could barely walk. She was so weak. That clinic, they injured her so badly inside that she bled to death on the way home. Just sent her home to die. So tragic, so inexcusable. You know, the CDC, the very pro-abortion CDC, even they said, they published that there's no reason for a woman to bleed to death from an abortion. The doctors, they have everything they need to spot the bleeding, everything they need to stop the bleeding. But that clinic, they didn't do it. They sent that woman home bleeding, just bleeding out, and she died on the way home. Very sad, very tragic. And that clinic, it was disgusting. You can read the inspection report from over a year later, December of 2021. It was still disgusting. Not properly sterilizing their instruments. Can you imagine that? Putting non-sterile instruments into a woman's body and saying you're doing that to help her and keep her safe. Can you imagine? And they had rusty instruments. Dead woman and dirty, rusty instruments. Do you hear Democrats telling them to clean up their act? I don't. I don't hear a word from them about anybody making them actually clean up those places. But that clinic, they finally stopped doing abortions. They stopped doing abortions because the Dobbs decision came down. I put those justices on the Supreme Court. The justices that said Roe versus Wade was a bad decision, very bad. The Dobbs decision overturned that very bad decision. Dobbs said the states could decide. Voters in Alabama decided that they didn't want abortions in their state. So that clinic that used to just do abortions with dirty instruments, sending a woman home to die, they stopped doing abortions. Stopped. They now provide medical care, real medical care to underserved women. The voters of Alabama decided that they wanted real medical care for women. Time will tell if they're doing it safely, that clinic, if they're providing good quality care. But what they're doing now, it doesn't involve putting dirty, rusty instruments into women's bodies, so it's bound to be an improvement. Bound to be an improvement. Some states, after Dobbs, they still want abortions happening. Lots of Democrats in those states. Lots of Democrats, lots of love for abortion. But now after Dobbs, voters in each state can decide. They can say, in this state, we do not love abortions. They can decide that doctors have to have hospital admitting privileges to treat the women they injure in abortions. The Democrats, They don't want doctors to have to provide care to the injured women. Just let those injured women show up at the hospital. Whatever doctors in the emergency room has to take care of them. So some states, they still have Democrats running the show, the people who care more about abortion than they do about women. But those justices I put on the court, they let the states decide. Let the voters of the states decide if they're going to shut down those places. And that's a good thing, a good thing. They weren't allowed to do that before. We want the best for women, the best for them, and we want the abortion lobby to lose its stranglehold on the Democrat Party so they can stop loving abortion and start loving the women. So please, if you do a good Trump voice, please steal my script. Actually, you can probably wing it way better than I wrote it. Let's do these ads that Trump should be doing.